Now, in the latest on the question of whether the United States of America will get involved or will not get involved in the Israeli war on Iran, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has read out a message from President Donald Trump stating that he'll make a decision on Iran in the next 2 weeks. Listen in.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks."
Now, Caroline Leavitt has also added that Iran was just a couple of weeks away from gaining a nuclear weapon. President Trump so far has given no clear indication on the American military's involvement. All right, now joining us for the broadcast, we've got Mr. Lester Munson. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. He's a senior fellow at the National Security Institute and the co-head of the international practice at BGR Group, which is a leading government relations firm in Washington, D.C. Mr. Munson, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us here on this broadcast. And let me ask you to weigh in on the statement that has come from the White House's press secretary, where she has now said in no uncertain terms that the American President Donald Trump will decide in the next 2 weeks whether to join this war or not. Why is there so much indecision here?
Well, I don't know why there's so much indecision. The statement is not entirely inconsistent with what President Trump has been saying, which is that he would prefer a negotiated solution to the conflict, a negotiated solution to Iran's nuclear weapons program in particular. So it is not out of bounds for him to say, I'm going to delay a decision until we have a final answer on whether diplomacy is possible. Also, it's possible he decides today or tomorrow. Both of those times are within 2 weeks. So it's really, at the end of the day, not much of an announcement because it's basically saying we're going to continue the current situation where people don't know what's going to happen.
All right. This is a situation of ambiguity. And you mentioned that he wants to give negotiations a chance. But the fact is, the American president, a couple of days back, put out on the social media that he wants a complete and an unconditional surrender from Iran, which the Iranian Supreme Leader rebuffed as saying that Iran will not surrender under any circumstance. With these kind of words having been exchanged, do you think any negotiations can happen?
Well, I suspect negotiations will not happen, but I wouldn't rule it out entirely. The President Trump seems to believe that there has been some sort of signal that Iran may want to talk to the United States. If that is true, it certainly seems worth pursuing. War should only be the absolute last resort. Of course, I say that war is already happening, certainly between Iran and Israel, and in fact between the U.S. and Iran, which have been basically in a low-level conflict for many years. Iran has shot at American troops. The U.S. has taken out Iranian leaders, including Qasem Soleimani a few years ago during the first Trump administration. So there's ongoing conflict here. But what we're talking about, of course, is a significantly enhanced level of conflict between the two countries.
But keeping in mind and sticking to what's been happening in the last 7 days, ever since Operational Rising Lion was started by Benjamin Netanyahu, the United States has kept out of this conflict without getting involved in any of the offensive measures that the Israelis are resorting to. The United States, by and large, has stuck to providing weapons to Israel and shooting down some of the Iranian ballistic missiles. I want you to weigh in on a report by the Wall Street Journal, which said that the Israelis are running out, it appears, of the interceptor missiles, of their Iron Dome, of their David Sling, and also of their Arrow air defense system. And the Americans too cannot replenish these because they too are short of it, having given a lot of it to the Israelis. But on the other hand, the Iranians seem to have more ballistic missiles to shoot at Israel. How do you think the Israelis would be looking at this situation?
Well, I don't doubt that supply and logistics at the end of the day are the most important thing here. Real military strategy is about the ability to deliver a weapon to the right place at the right time. So you're highlighting the most important issue. At the end of the day, the Israeli and American ability to produce weapons is significantly greater than Iran's. No one is coming to Iran's assistance here. No one is offering them additional missiles, to my knowledge. So at the end of the day, if this is a war of attrition over missiles, Iran is going to lose.
But this is a war of attrition that has a very limited time frame, because the Wall Street Journal also mentions that the Israelis can keep shooting down these Iranian missiles for a period of 10, maybe 12 days and not more. With that being said, even at a time when the Israelis have had these air defense interceptors, some of these Iranian missiles have managed to strike cities such as Tel Aviv and Haifa. In the last 7 decades of Israel's existence, we've never witnessed the scenes that we have witnessed this time round. Do you think the aura of Israeli invincibility has been dented?
I don't think so. It's certainly regrettable that some of these missiles have hit civilian targets. Israel's missile defense is very impressive, but it is not perfect. It is shooting down well over 90% of the missiles that are shot at it. Every loss of life on both sides is very regrettable. War is a terrible thing. But I don't think this is any kind of strategic victory for Iran in any way.
All right. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu has been talking about a regime change over and over again. He's in fact said that regime change is more important than the question of Iran's nuclearization. In your assessment, what do you think a regime change can actually accomplish? And looking at the United States' track record of having brought about regime change in Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, just to name in the last 2.5 decades, why do you think the United States would want to back a regime change, this time led by Israel?
Well, President Trump has specifically said that he is not supporting regime change. He has said he will support Israel and that he is looking to make sure Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. So it is not U.S. policy to push for regime change. Having said that, it is clear that the Iranian leadership is extremely weak. It is unable to perform the basic functions of a government, which is to defend its people from outside attack. So it seems logical that there could be some change at the very senior levels in Iranian government very soon. It's likely to be from Iranians taking matters into their own hands and seeking to have a government that can succeed instead of one that can fail. So I don't believe there is a U.S. or Israeli effort specifically to facilitate that change. That will come from within, as it should. In the long term, Iranians must govern themselves. Their leaders cannot be selected by outsiders.
I think that's an important point that you're making, but at the same time, there is this expectation that the Iranians, for good reason, could be fed up with the theocratic government that they have. But we've not seen any indication that the people are rising up against the government. Instead, what we are witnessing is that people are perhaps rallying to their flag, where they do not like the fact that they are under attack from another nation, in this case, Israel. Now, my final question to you is this. The fact that this war has dragged on for about 7 days, we do not know what the end game of this or how this will unfold. In your assessment, how much longer will this war now go on?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's very difficult to make any prediction when it comes to military activity like this. I suspect but you're asking me the question, so I will answer it. I think the U.S. will end up coming to Israel's direct help end the Iranian nuclear weapons program, such as it is, and that we're going to see significant changes in the Iranian government relatively soon.
All right.
And that's likely to happen within the next few days.
That seems more like an expectation than what probably is unfolding at this time. But nevertheless, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Munson, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.